Mr. Gerald Barber.
Thank you, and congratulations to all of you in the class. Last weekend, something caught my attention in the Wall Street Journal. And it was about graduating classes this year. And I want to read you the headlines. Dear graduates, you are pampered, privileged, and oversexed, but at least your employment prospects are dim. And this is the attitude that most people in this country have. Now, that said, let me point out, to live in the greatest country in the world, we got 5% of the population. We are creating over half of the new ideas. We produce almost a third of all the products produced. We really have a great country, and innovation and creativity is driving it forward very rapidly. That said, I can promise you only one thing about the future. It's going to change, it's going to change, and it's going to change. I don't care whether you have a job now or you don't have a job, you better prepare yourself to use the niche, and I love that wit, whatever it takes. Be prepared to do that. And all I want to do today is give you 2 tools that I really think makes a difference in helping you move forward to meet whatever those changes are. Remember, it's going to be a changing environment, and you've got to adapt to that environment on a continuing basis. And it could be in your business world, it could be in your personal world, it could be in marriage, it could be in health. All kinds of changes will come throughout your life. Be prepared. So here's the 2 tools I'm going to give you, and they are about one thing: you understanding yourself. Number 1, I want you to forget everything that you have learned about measuring your intelligence. How's your intelligence been measured? It's been measured IQ, SAT, ACT, even the grades you got in grade school, middle school, high school, college, whatever. You have perceived in your brain what you think of your intelligence. Forget that. Here's how I want you to really understand intelligence, because all those things did was measure about 20 of the things your brain does. And guess what? Your brain does at least 10,000 and probably a lot more things. So I want you to visualize your intelligence like this. Imagine when you were a kid, you had those wooden blocks that had 6 sides on every block, A, B, C. Imagine a big pile of big blocks, middle-sized blocks, and a pile of little blocks. And now you've got 10,000 labels that says all the things your brain does. And you mix them all up, and at random, you glue them on the sides of all these blocks. You mix them up and you put them in your brain. Now, what this really says your brain is very capable of doing is you've got a whole bunch of things in there that you're really good at. If it's balance, you might be an ice skater, I don't know. But your brain does all kinds of things. Physical, it does all kinds of things. Internally, as it thinks, it does all kinds of assessing all the information it gets from its eyes, its ears, and so forth. And it has to absorb those. So all the IQ stuff and the SAT was doing was measuring how well you can regurgitate information you hear in school. It's trying to measure your success in school. It's not measuring success in life. So one of the things you've got to do is decide what your brain does well and find things that you can use those well, and also be aware of the things you cannot do well. For example, I cannot spell. I cannot remember people's names. My handwriting is horrible. I have little blocks on those labels, but I've gotten very good at doing things to avoid making me look like an idiot every day. So use your good blocks. Try to avoid to do things to take care of your little blocks. Think of yourself this way. If you start thinking this way, your self-esteem will simply jump way up. That is number 1. Number 2, I'm getting ready to write a book, okay? And the title of this book will be The Need to be Needed. And I really came up with this idea when my son was 12, he's 21 now. When he was 12, he and I went and lived in 5 different remote villages. We were there a month in southwest China, one of the poorest areas of the world. One village we had to walk 4 hours because there was not even a Jeep trail to get there. They didn't have any money. They didn't have anything, but I noticed the same percentage of people were happy there as my rich friends here. And I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, wait a minute, why? Obviously, it's not money, it's not physical things you own. What does determine happiness? Remember, my background is science, and I'm all about evolution. And we evolved in tribes of 20 to 40 people. And there was no room for fat, meaning there was no room for anybody to stay in your tribe that was not, adding to the tribe. Because if you had people there that were not contributing, another tribe got stronger, came over and killed all your tribe out and took over your food supply. Food was a big limiting factor. So I've been doing research for about 3 years on this book. And I'm 100% convinced that we are genetically programmed that we must feel needed. It's the perceived need to be needed that determines your happiness. It is as strong in us as our hunger drive, as our sex drive, as everything else. You've got to be needed. Now, as you start understanding what makes you happy, what do you do now? You take these big blocks you've got, you find a niche, a job, a place in the community where you're really needed, and that's where a passion develops. Most people that are highly productive, that work hard, that love their job, do not do it for money. Look at your teachers. They do it because they perceive you needed it. Look at your doctors. Why do doctors go through what they do to become a doctor? To be needed. And this gets so deep. If you want to keep your marriage strong, make your partner feel needed. Always put yourself in a situation where you're needed. To give you an idea how powerful it is, my wife and I took the Queen Mary across the Atlantic. So every night we go out for dinner and we stop at the bar and have a drink. One night we sit down and my wife started talking to a couple on the other side, and this couple sit down beside us, and I started talking to them, a very attractive lady. Her husband started talking to someone else, and I started asking her about herself. Well, what kind of job do you have? Oh, I don't work, haven't worked. My husband makes a lot of money. And they had homes in California, New York, and very, very, very rich. And I said, well, what about your kids? She said, oh, I have 2 daughters. One's a junior and one's a senior in college. I said, I'm doing research on this book I'm getting ready to write. Can I ask you some very personal questions? She looked at me kind of strange. She said, I don't know you. You can ask me anything you want. Oh, I answered. This is great. I said, I noticed you drink a glass of red wine. Before your kids went off to college, did you drink more or less than you do now? She said, I never thought about it, but I used to have 1 or 2 glasses a week, and I guess I now have about a bottle or maybe a bottle every night. I said, okay, my next question. What mood-altering drugs did your doctor put you on? Oh, it was the minor one, the weak one. He just started it. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, have you tried any volunteer work? I did, but they gave me a job licking stamps, and I did it for a week, and it was so boring, I just quit. I said, okay, let me ask, remember I said I was going to ask personal questions. I said, how did the affair work out? And her mouth dropped open. She did not answer, but it was obvious that it didn't work out. And I said, I want to explain about my book and the need to be needed. You see, you are in a situation, your girls left home, you'd redone your house, you had everything everybody should want, but you did not feel needed. Okay? My research has indicated that women get in your situation have one of the highest suicide rates out there. I strongly suggest you really find some volunteer work where you perceive you're needed. Well, we kind of left each other because everybody came back and started talking. Later that evening, the woman looked me up and she said, "Thank you." And that's all she had to say. Now, what I'm saying to you is use the big blocks, find something where you're needed, and you will develop a passion. Use that need to be needed with your employees, because if you can make them feel needed, they will be far more productive. It just changes the way everything works. Now, I want you to not sit around and do nothing. Now, everybody tells graduates, go out and change the world. And everybody says, go out and grab the bull by the horns. Now, I want you to visualize that. Can you imagine how stupid that is? Can you imagine holding on to that bull and all he's going to do is shake you and gore you into the ground? You don't want to do that. You want to change the world. You go around, you grab him by the balls, and the world will change. Thank you, and I wish you luck.